The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Hello everyone and welcome to Embrace Your Power. Tonight I have an amazing guest on, Jaret Martino. He made this film called Stronger Than Pretty, which is based on a true story about his mother who had been in an abusive relationship, and it's won so many awards. And he also has Pat Branch, who is the co-writer, and I'm excited to have them on the radio show tonight. So welcome to my radio show, guys. How are you, gals? How are you?
Hi, how are you? Hey, Janet, thanks so much.
Oh, you're welcome. So, I know you, Jaret, for a while now, but there's a lot of listeners out there who don't know anything about you. So can you give a little synopsis about your past and how you came about to this film?
Sure, yeah, of course. I'm an actor since childhood. I started acting as an escape from the very story that I ended up writing about years later. So it's always been an outlet, the entertainment industry. And I moved from New York to Los Angeles, and I was on a flight. Then I wrote the very first draft of Stronger Than Pretty, just out of a need and a desire to make sense of my past, never thinking that it would become what it is today. It was a very private and personal, really vulnerable story to share, and some vivid memories in there. So just one thing led into another. I wrote it in screenplay format because that's what I've known since I'm a kid. And although Pat Branch, my co-writer, would say it definitely needed some help, I used a free program, and fortunately, the universe brought Pat and I together. She's been my rock throughout the creative journey, and helped me finesse it into what it's become today. We've done some stage readings and table reads, and got it out to the industry. And now we're 30 plus drafts later, and arrived at our shooting draft for the feature film. I guess I should back up a little bit. We did a proof of concept / short that ended up doing really well in the festivals. I think we've won about 30 plus awards, and we premiered at the Indie Lounge during the Sundance Film Festival 2017.
Quite an accomplishment. So amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know, like, there's a lot of people out there who have been in an abusive relationship like your mother. And, what it really impresses me about you is the love that you poured into this film. And, your mother, she's such a strong woman. And, it's just incredible to me that, she was willing to let you tell her story, because, a lot of abuse survivors are like you said, it's shame, and you live through that, and the emotions that you deal with, sometimes, you don't want to relive it, and you don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people get caught up in. And when we partnered with the National Coalition Against Domestic Abuse, that was one of the first things they said to me. Thanks for making this, because this is one of the most swept under the rug subjects. And they fight a day for women and men to share their voice. And, it's something that, unfortunately, my mom, had some support from her family and friends and people that got her through the darkest times, and also, just the light within herself. So that definitely made a mark on our family, made a complete difference in my childhood, and and the love and the support from my mom is what got us through. So, as I think I always was empathetic to her, as a child, but as I really understood and grew into being an adult and moving out to Los Angeles, 3,000 miles away, I would have an audition, have to do laundry and some few other things in one day, and I was overwhelmed. Like, how did my mom do this with 3 kids and 3 jobs? And it's just it was remarkable to me, and I already had so much respect for her, and that really kind of sealed the deal of really getting full grasp on what she had to do to just make it all happen.
That's so great that you see that, because to have that understanding and to see what she went through and how she did it, and how you're a single guy and you had to do that, and you're like, wow, how the heck did she do that? I think it's hard enough to having to go through an abusive situation, and also having all those responsibilities, because it's tough on you emotionally, and not just physically, but also emotionally.
Definitely, yeah. It's abuse has so many different forms. Starts a lot of the times verbal, emotional, turns into physical, or both at the same time, and then even financial abuse, which is this is a class thing as well. The more money families have, sometimes less it's talked about, because there's a lot of shame and there's worry about how lifestyle can change, and what the end result of all that will be. And for my mom too, I'm sure there was tremendous worry. I mean, she left in the middle of the night. She was uneducated. Although it was a dream to go to school, she didn't grow up in that time. She was conditioned to just get married and have kids. So here she was with 3 kids, leaving an abusive relationship in the middle of the night, and had to make her way. So it's scary, but I think what I wanted to focus on, which is a thread in all my work, to just promote empowerment, for women first and foremost, but for everybody. I think that's a message for everybody at the end of the day. Focusing on how we can empower each other and move on from the past, and the only way we can do that is through art and communication, and talking about the things that we don't want to talk about, and moving on from them as quickly as possible, because otherwise you get caught in the cycle of abuse continues, and maybe it's not in the way that it initially was for our family, but that carries over, that dynamic, and that's something Stronger Than Pretty has helped my family escape. We're already knit, but seeing your life on a big screen definitely has some tremendous impact, and can shed light and zoom you out and give you the picture of what's important, what we all still could work on, and that we did all tackle as a family. Because abuse and alcoholism and all these things come with, everybody takes on a certain character trait, and my sister was the funny one, I was the peacemaker. There's all different. I think that happens with any family, but when you have any type of abuse,
survival
definitely
mode, right? Survival mode.
Yeah, you go into fight or flight, and especially when you feel the impact of everything that one parent had to do, so yeah, just kind of, embracing all that and knowing that it was there. I think the most important thing we could do is recognize it, and not try to run from it. I think I did that for a long time, that you don't want to really admit how hard or bad things were.
Yeah.
You'd rather just go numb to it. And so yeah, I want to keep spreading that message as much as possible throughout everything I do.
That, like you said, what you just said is really important, because as an abuse survivor myself, I felt shame when I didn't want to talk about it. But, when you try to throw something under the rug, it doesn't help you. You have to address it. You have to deal with it. And so you can move on with your life. And, I'm sure that your film is, helped so many people. And just by talking about it, too, I think when people start talking about something, they say, oh, wow, that person that went with it, and, they're talking about it, and it makes you feel more comfortable, because then you feel like, well, I'm not the only one who's gone through this. Have you had a lot of people come up to you and say, oh, my gosh, I thank you so much. I have a story similar to yours. I have a story to tell, or you gave me the courage to share mine. I'm sure you probably had that happen to you quite often.
Definitely. I think, in the society we live in, and what studios typically back in Hollywood, are very commercial, and the messages are always a bit, on a lighter note as far as what they're tackling, and it's pretty surface, and that doesn't align with me. I don't think that's why we go to the theater. I don't think that's why, it takes the humanity out of it. So, yeah, I mean, sharing the story and the vulnerability of it is definitely, even if someone can't relate to alcoholism or domestic violence, there's something in every family dynamic that was dark, that they want to run from, that people want to escape from or can go right. And maybe it's not in their immediate family. Maybe it's something that happened as they, grew up. But typically, I mean, from what I've experienced, that everybody has some story to share, and I think the vulnerability of sharing this is definitely. We've heard all sorts of stories, and people thanking us for making this, so they could be comfortable to share their voice.
It's not easy, being vulnerable like that and opening up to people and sharing your story, because sometimes you want to with that shame that that it comes, that you want to keep yourself closed off, because you don't want people to judge you and look at you in a different way, because as you suffer from abuse, it's already traumatizing enough to where someone can turn around and say, well, why did you stay, or why did you do this, or why did you do that? So it is a tough situation, and I thank God that you are vulnerable like you are, and to share your story.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's definitely, in the beginning it was a bit harder. I was still tackling my own emotions around it and trying to figure out, like I said, I wrote that very first draft as just a way to get it out. But I've learned so much, and I've grown tremendously, and I realized that a lot of that shame is just my own ego too, and not seeing the bigger picture of what I'm trying to do on a grander scale, especially with the feature. It's one thing for the short, it has its impact, but the feature is definitely, the product and what will get more exposure and what will continue to help other people. So yeah, I definitely, I want to encourage people that it may be hard, and I certainly found myself leaning on a lot of people throughout the process, but I've learned to use my voice. It's a story about a woman finding her voice who happens to be my mother, but I also realized how much I was writing the story for myself, and the fact that I had to learn my way and just embrace my power, and
Yeah.
and know that that's okay. Sharing my pain is okay, and speaking up, and if we're able to help one person, I've done my job.
Yes. Something that I'd spoken to you about before was that when abuse first starts, it starts verbally, and this is really interesting. Like, I know so many people who don't realize that verbal abuse is just as bad as physical abuse. A lot of people think that if you're just verbally or emotionally abused, is not as bad as being physically abused. But like you said, it starts with verbal, then it turns physical. And I think that it's so important for people to realize, if they are in any kind of situation like that, that's a red flag, and they need to really take note of that.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, because that's definitely something that will drag you down. You don't have the physical scars to prove it, but God, that can be really tough to work your way out of. So,
yeah, I think too. Like when
it's really important.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that is an important aspect, and that people should be aware. Because the way that carries over to the way we then talk about ourselves and our own subconscious, and
May I dive in here for 1 minute to say that it's also, when it's a verbal thing, there's no physical manifestation of it, so it's easy to internalize the harsh words that are said to you, and so no one can see of somebody saying awful words to you the way that they can see someone hitting you and leaving a bruise, leaving a physical mark.
Yeah, absolutely, and it erodes your self-esteem. Because I went through it myself. I was in a support group, and the common theme in everyone that I ran into that went through what I went through was self-esteem issues. The self-esteem gets eroded. Your self-esteem, your self-worth, your value, becomes eroded, and you tend to believe the lies this person is telling you. And sometimes that's another reason why women or men end up staying longer, because the self-esteem, it's so eroded, it's so low that, they don't even have, the ability to leave that relationship, because they feel so badly about themselves. And they're not confident, they're not strong. So, it is really a tough thing.
Yeah, and you also think, well, if this awful person doesn't want me, why would a good person want me? That's another layer to the issue of verbal abuse or physical abuse or any kind of abuse, is when somebody that's not a kind person isn't treating you well. Why would you think that you're deserving of someone? Because you think you deserve it. That's the issue, is that you somehow think you've earned this misbehavior. The universe makes it happen, and so you wonder, why would a good person want me if this person doesn't?
That is very true, So I think that it's so this film is so important for people to see, because everyone has a different story, but basically it all starts around the same way. Is that the verbal, and then it becomes physical, and some women maybe even it doesn't get to the physical, but like you said, Pat, it's just as bad, and it's still abuse. Abuse is abuse. And it's really important for people to realize that.
Yep. Because words hurt, and there's some things you can't unsay.
Yes, it's true. I think that, in this day and age now, too, with the internet, people don't realize that there's people also that it's really important, too, that if you're on any kind of social media and somebody is being abusive to you, you've got to block them and you've got to cut them off, because that's also abuse. And a lot of people don't realize that you can be abused through social media.
Yep. Almost definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So, but I think it's so great that, you guys have partnered with the Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Now, do you guys do any type of events with them?
I've been talking to some high schools and different events, and then, at different festivals. And we have actually, through the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, they have a conference every year. So we were invited, Stronger Than Pretty, to be a part of the Voices Rising Conference in October, which is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we'll be there sharing Stronger Than Pretty with 1,000 advocates. And, and whatever other events pop up, I'm always happy to talk. Encourage other people.
Yeah. I wanted to.
I think also what it comes down to. Sorry to cut you off, but I was thinking that through all the various ways to be abused, and you made a good point about how we have to safeguard ourselves. I think it all comes down to loving ourselves. How to do that effectively, creating boundaries. But it's also an energy thing. I think, talking on that plane, it's we won't call that type of energy in if you would never talk to yourself that way. If it does pop up, you can quickly move on from it. Because it's really how we talk to ourselves, and what our relationship is with truly loving, loving ourselves on the inside and out.
It's very true, because some of the things that I see is people who don't love themselves. They do tend to let people walk all over them. They don't have boundaries. They don't have that self-worth, that self-esteem. And it is, like you said, an energy. Once you create boundaries and you do love yourself in a very healthy way, not in a conceited way, in a healthy way, that you say, no, wait a minute, like you said, I wouldn't allow anyone to talk to my son that way, or my best friend, or anyone else. Why would I allow anyone to talk to me that way? And that's a very valid point. That's a very valid point. And so it's important, to have that. To know your self-worth, to know your value, to not, accept any type of negative energy from anyone, and then to be able to, say no and put up a boundary. And that's another thing too, Jared. Have you come across this where when people have gone through some type of abuse, that it's hard for them to say no to other people?
I mean, that was me, and that's why I think I have so much clarity on it, because I was my mother, that carried over, I think, just through genes that I guess watching what she went through, and although we don't want to become the negative parts of our parents, I think we often just naturally pick that up, and it's really important to be aware of all that, and be able to embrace that, the negative parts too. Nobody's perfect, and I think naturally also we want to blame our parents and blame other people, but I think that all really does come back to, again, our conversation with ourselves and how we treat ourselves, because that defines what we're willing to take and not take in this life, and I think I was always a people pleaser and fell into the arts because I wanted to feel significant from all these other sources, And it was a long, sad road, that finally brought me to a place of clarity through my own work and through Stronger Than Pretty, to realize that had to organically come from me, because if it didn't, nobody was going to love me the way I should be loved, unless I was doing that for myself. So yeah, it's all about love.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think that's the great thing we did with the screenplay, is making this character, within her weakness, also strong. That was the main thing that we kept doing in developing how we presented his mom, and how to make sure that we showed her strength, and finding that way to love herself enough to leave this bad marriage and this bad situation, and just to, also to take care of herself and her kids.
Yeah,
so that's one of the things that we really try and do with this story.
I think that is like also, I don't have kids, and I can't relate to that, obviously, but my mother had three children, and is a great example of escaping. I think a lot of people get caught up in the cycle of, well, how would I do this on my own? And
yeah,
and it's not to say that was easy for my mom. Like I said, she worked 3 jobs. She had to time her day out by the second. I mean, she would be cooking dinner at 4 a.m. and have a big pot of soup or whatever that was going to feed us for the next couple days, and she'd go to school while we were in school, and work various jobs, and have my older brother or babysitter, just covering all the bases. And that's why I said I couldn't do washing my laundry and go into an audition one day. And that's when I really understood, like, holy moly, she really did a lot, because just to take care of yourself is a job, never mind the whole family, and putting yourself to school, become the teacher she is today. That was always her dream, and she realized that through all the adversity and everything that she had to struggle through. So I think that's another important point, that she can be an example for. Yeah, it may not be easy, and oftentimes also what I've learned is that ego and materialism and all that, that lifestyle looks glamorous, and it looks like it's like someone may be winning, especially the abuser. It feels like they might get away with something, but they don't. At the end of the day, and I've reminded my mom too, you won. You won. Like, you have your family, you have your peace of mind, and you have all your dreams and it may not, I think the fact that it wasn't easy to get there is the best part. That's the part that you could really feel proud about. And
also, she never gave up. She absolutely never gave up.
Exactly, yep.
Yeah, and a strong woman. I love the name of the film, so, when did the name of the film just come to you because of the strength of your mom, or was it something that just like you just knew?
And I have some really close people that I've worked with. This is my 11th film at this point, and I have a business advisor that actually helped me come up with the name. It's just encouraging. The very first draft, I titled it Wonder Woman, and I know, I couldn't use that unless I had a ton of money to back that one.
Yeah.
So, and I used Wonder Woman because that was actually my grandfather's nickname for her, and it resonated for me after writing this story. But anyway, so yeah, I just wanted something that encouraged women. Some people get confused by it a little bit, where why are you encouraged? Why can't they be both strong and pretty? But we're encouraging women to be stronger than pretty because they're already encouraged to be pretty. That's the standard that's kind of been set for a long time now, and we're just starting the very beginning of breaking that. This is thousands of years of conditioning, and so we're kind of, this is a little bit out of the box and groundbreaking, I think, for what's happening. I think even for the industry, we hear about women's empowerment, but I'll be the first to tell you, I don't care who's listening, they're quick to put it on Lifetime and certain networks and platforms, and they're still not backing these type of films, women's empowerment films. There's not enough data, there's not enough this or that. So on the business end, and society, I think it is, we're talking about it so much because there's so much more work to do.
I agree with you. And you made a very good point, Jaret. Little girls are conditioned from the time they're little. You have to look pretty. Don't you want to look pretty? And a lot of times, people don't even mention their intelligence. They don't, it's like, oh, you look pretty today. Instead of saying, I'm so proud of you. You're doing great in school. It's really is a conditioning that has gone on for, like you said, a long time. And I think it's great, your message with your film, that you should be proud that you're strong, that you're intelligent, that you're doing well, whether it's school wise or work wise, or that you're a strong person.
Yeah, I mean, my mom's name happened to become a teacher, and that's something we focus on. But I want women to leave, and if they don't want to wear makeup, if they want to take a boxing class, if they want to do whatever it is that society may have told them not to do or not to try, that beyond, in addition to the slew of other messages that are in there, and escaping domestic violence, it could easily be an empowerment for whatever that that person's dream was.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's so important, and I'm just really excited that you're doing this, because it's the right time. This is the timing, and the women need to hear this, and little girls, they should be growing up and saying, you can do whatever you want. You want to, like you said, Jerry, you want to take a boxing class, go ahead, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think we're very much living in that time. There's nothing that should define anybody. Blue shouldn't be for boys, and pink shouldn't be for girls. It's everybody's unique, and that should be celebrated. Yeah. If we didn't have that, we have a very boring world. Yeah, and we might as well just keep reversing to. We worked our way out of. We're working our way out of that conditioning. So, yeah.
No, it's very true. So, what are some exciting things that are going on with the film?
Well, we just partnered with Film Independent, and I think you're the first to know that. So, you and who's ever listening, Film Independent is a partner and a fiscal sponsor to Stronger Than Pretty. So, we'll be back up on Feed and Spark doing a final crowdfunding campaign for the production part of Stronger Than Pretty, and our hope is to shoot in June. I mean, I've secured 30 locations. I have some really talented crew and some name talent attachments, and we're ready to go.
That's exciting.
And yeah, the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, who we've mentioned, they've been a big support, and obviously we're right in line with all their messages. And
that's awesome. Congratulations. That's so
thank
that's
you.
Exciting. You've
Thanks
been
so
on
much.
such a long journey, and so, to have this piece of it happen, I mean, you've got to be feeling incredible.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm ready to celebrate. I'm ready to go to production and just meet as many people as we can and turn as many victims into survivors and just keep the conversation going on the grander scale.
Yeah, that's great. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't know about you is that you hire predominantly female crews, correct?
Yeah, I get as many women on board as I can, for sure. And I want to try to break the statistic. I think it's 7%. The last I looked that up. So it's really important to to hire as many females as possible on the crew. So definitely, that's something I'm adamant about.
That's empowering, because it is true. It's like that statistic has to be broken, like you said, and it's got to start somewhere. So I think that I hope that you will start a trend, and that other people will start looking at what you're doing and saying, you know what, that's a really great thing that he's doing. Follow his lead. He has to be the leader, right?
Exactly. Yep. I'm happy to step up to the plate. So follow my lead.
Yeah, and you have now. You how did you when you selected the people to be in your movie? Was it people that you already knew, or how did you go about selecting the people that are going to be in your movie?
Well, some of them I've been in the industry since childhood, and so some of them I've known since from various jobs and whatnot, and then we've done a staged reading. So not typical to the entertainment industry. We actually have been with some of these people for 4 years throughout the entire journey, from our first stage reading, throughout our table reads, through the short, and now they'll be working on the feature. And it's one big family at this point, full of positive energy and people that know my family and have met my mother. I mean, when we go to film this feature, we're retracing a lot of my mother's steps. I mean, down to areas that she lived in, and her first classroom. We'll be shooting in a lot of the spaces that she actually went through this story in. So yeah, it's really exciting. It definitely gives it more meaning to just have this family behind it, and be able to go back home to New York and get this accomplished.
How does your mom feel about?
She's so strong. I mean, I tell people, and it kind of sounds funny, I guess, but I watched my mother become a woman, and naturally, I think organically, what was happening for her as the years went on. But I think Stronger Than Pretty also played a role in that. Like I said, seeing your life on screen. So, she's been able to embrace her power and embrace things that took a long time. Conditioning of what she thought she had to be. So we're seeing a very happy Donna, and she's been a part of so many amazing special memories. Any time this has been covered, or we go to a festival, I mean, I'll never forget at Sundance. She put on or any premiere we've had, she put on a dress and just worked that carpet, red carpet, and was so happy to to be there. It's a celebration for her at point.
That's so great. Yeah, I know. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say there were people that have come up to her to share their stories of abuse in their family that they didn't know was there, and sharing deeply personal things. And it was funny to see that energy flow between them. To basically take their hand in hers and look them in the eye and just listen to them, and they would. And the first one. And we were in Sundance, and I heard this one guy sharing the story, and I just backed away because it was not for me to hear when he began to tell it, but just to watch between the two of them how, like you said earlier, inspiring people to tell their own stories and to begin their own healing. That's what was so great to see in her, how people respond to her. When she, they see this film and then they see her and they're like, oh, and then they go right up to her to tell her something about their own lives. That's really beautiful. Well, what happened isn't beautiful, but them sharing with her, it's a beautiful moment to witness.
Yeah, that is very beautiful.
And I think that it's important to say too that, of course I think the film was the final layer for her. Everything that she went through and all the hardships, and she was in therapy too, and this is something that she could tell anybody that is going through this or going through anything in life, that she's always taught me that it's just important. The communication is so important. So getting it out to as many, friends are one thing, but sometimes I think everybody can use, that therapist or whoever comes in that can help you get through the toughest time. So there's so many components, I think, to how she is now able to stand in a really grounded way and celebrate the film, and then really understand like the bigger message and getting that to as many people as possible.
Wonderful. Now, I met your mom at that one festival in New York where we met each other.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
One of the things I have to be that impressed me about your mom, she had such amazing positive energy, and she had such a beautiful smile on her face. She was smiling, and you could see it was genuine too. She's, because her eyes, she's got such a beautiful smile, and her eyes were smiling, and that really impressed me about her. I just have to say that, you could feel the love coming from her.
Definitely, she's very heartfelt, and she's my best friend for sure. I see her you could see her as a little girl when you look in her face, and I used to get angry. Like, how could somebody hurt her? She's so pure and so heartfelt, and all she wants is the best for everybody. And I got angry about that, and I realized that's that's very much who I am as well. So finally respecting that for myself too has been really beautiful.
Yeah, it is. That you can maintain that that love and that innocence, even though somebody abuses you. That's very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, because
definitely,
you don't allow that person to take away that part of you, that beautiful part of you that still believes in love, still believes in good, and you don't turn into this toxic person who has given away your power to somebody to ruin your life in that way. So that's the beauty that I see in your mom, that she still has this beauty about her, this innocence and this wonderful positivity.
Definitely. Well, I will let her know you said that. And so share this link with her so she can hear it herself. Cause I think it's always great for her to be reminded of that, and for everybody, and that's my mission, to remind everybody of that. I think that's really important.
Yes, absolutely. But so and now, as far as like I know you said you're going to go on doing a seat in the market. How can people get a hold of you, and what is the easiest way for them to, if they want to know anything about your film, what's the easiest for them to get a hold of you?
Yep, everything is on strongerthanpretty.com, and everything from the very beginning, pretty much, and where we're going with the feature and all our partnerships. You could even watch the teaser and the short right on strongerthanpretty.com. So that's definitely the best way. We're also on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all on Stronger Than Pretty. So, and Twitter is actually STP Film, but you can get it by typing in Stronger Than Pretty.
It's easy to look up Stronger Than Pretty. Can't forget that.
And it's THAN. Just sometimes people get it confused. So yeah, that's definitely the best way. I do want to I can't thank Pat Branch enough. Definitely been
you're very welcome.
The most amazing co-writer I could have. The universe definitely put us together. We have a funny story about that. Just how we were kind of pushed together, and when that happens in this life, I think it's significant and it means something, and it should be valued. And she's become part of the family. And I couldn't imagine doing this without her, and I'm excited that she'll be able to be on set with us, just how she was.
Yeah,
short.
That was the best part is writing about these people that are real, and then meeting them afterwards, and seeing their and they're people that you already know because you've written this story about them. And I've spoken to his mom and his brother, but to meet his grandmother and his aunt and his uncle, and it was just really, and his sister. It was quite fun to. Life imitates art, and art imitates life.
Yeah.
She met my big Italian crazy family.
Yeah, it was wonderful. In Long Island.
Now,
and I got to go to some of the places that I'd written about, some of the locations that are, in the story. Jaret took me to those places to see them, and that was really fun. That was so to go to places that you've written about. I mean, you could write a story about Paris, and of course, Eiffel Tower, but a place that's someone's home that's in a story that you're writing about is really it was fun. It was just nice to go there and drive past the courthouse. Like, I remember that courthouse, because some of the places I had to Google because I didn't know about them.
Right.
But then then to see them live, it was very exciting.
And that is exciting. It's like life again, and it came to life when you wrote it, and now it's coming to life again.
Yeah. And I would just like to say also, it's just an honor to be able to tell this story, to be able to be a part of telling this story of this very strong woman that manifested her dreams and didn't, just never gave up and did this phenomenal thing. And just, for me, the best part is, we always see things about extraordinary people, but this is a different kind of extraordinary. She, wanted to be a teacher, not she didn't want to be a princess in some European mountain or something. She wanted to do something just ordinary, but in an extraordinary way, and to survive extraordinary circumstances to make it happen. That's what was also really great about getting to work with Jaret on this story.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. And so, Jaret, if somebody's listening right now and they're going through any type of abusive situation, what's the best advice that you would give?
I'd honestly have to say, I just finished reading the book called Whatever Rises. Love that. And I would say that if they can get their hands on that book, definitely give that a read, because it's all about loving yourself. And my mother, just how Pat said, manifested. There's a silent strength about her. She's a Capricorn, so if she thinks, she puts her mind to something, she gets it done. And sometimes it doesn't seem that way. You know, I think people get frustrated or impatient, but just the daily conversation that we have with ourselves is so important. Meditation, however you can get back to yourself, you know, however you can keep the conversation healthy and not escape. The best thing to do is just to face every part of ourselves, and good, the bad, the ugly, you know. We all have it, and I think it gets confusing because the entertainment industry especially paints a very different picture about what the reality, especially with social media too. I think that's a huge factor in why there's so much confusion and depression and various things happening, because people get caught up, or we're living in a fantasy world, and just seeing the highlights of people's lives. But the reality of it is that we all have good and bad days. You know, I have good and bad seconds sometimes.
Don't we all?
So, you know, it's important to, just to work on loving yourself. And I'm talking to myself too right now. I think everything we say out loud is something that we need to hear as well. So, yeah, just watch how you're talking to other people. If that's, that gets confusing too, because what we put out there is a huge reflection of how we think about ourselves.
That's very true.
I mean, it's very easy. It would be very easy to say, if you're in an abusive relationship, just leave. But it's not that simple for some people. They don't have options. So I think what Jaret said is very important. If you are in a situation where you can't just pick up and leave, at least counter the negative with your own positivity, I guess. Positivity. I don't know. I hear people use that word, but that's what you can do, is keep telling yourself, keeping yourself strong with your own words until you do find get to a place where you can leave. Because obviously you can't stay forever. There's only two ways out of that kind of relationship. One is to leave, and the other one I don't even want to say.
Right,
so
right.
I think, what Jaret said, educating yourself and saying the things. If no one is saying the things you need to hear, then say them to yourself.
Yeah, good point. Well, we have a couple minutes left, and I just want to thank you both for being on tonight. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen the next part of the adventure for Stronger Than Pretty. And I'll do all my best to promote it, because I truly believe in what you guys are doing. And I just thank you so much for being on tonight.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. So
thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Jaret. And
thanks.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I just said thanks again.
Thank you. So have a wonderful night, and I'll be definitely sharing this message with everyone I come into contact with, and I'm excited for the future for Stronger Than Pretty. So thank you guys again, and have a good night.
Thank you. And if anyone wants to reach out, there's a contact page as well. So if anyone has any further questions or wants to send a comment or anything, they're more than welcome to reach out. I want that platform to be something that people feel comfortable to be able to reach out and ask questions, and I'll help direct however I can. So yeah, thank you so much, and appreciate it, Janet.
Thank you. Okay, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, bye-bye. Well, everyone, that was Jaret Martino and Pat Branch from Stronger Than Pretty. Amazing, a film that you've got to go see. This is going to be a feature film soon. They're going to be working on that. So go to strongerthanpretty.com to find out all the information that you need to for this film. And again, if you need any resources, you can also reach out to Jaret Martino, as he has partnered with the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Well, thank you, and until next week,
Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. East Coast Time. Good night.